Okay. So as you hear, my voice is a bit sore, so I give my best to give this talk, but I hope it works. Yeah, let's give it a go. So tonight I would like to talk about Filament PHP and how you can build apps fast using it. And in a second section, which is a bit shorter probably, I would like to talk about the manager and strategy pattern, which I used in a recent side project of mine, as well as Filament, but I use Filament also in my day life at work. So a bit of a highlight of what you can build with Filament and how you can use the manager and strategy pattern to maybe simplify your code a bit. And a word of warning before I start, my voice is a bit sore and I'm a bit of a fast talker, but I try to keep it slow. And if you have any questions, please raise your hand or let's ask your questions at the end. And I will also share my slides after the talk in our Discord and WhatsApp channels and on my socials. A couple of words about me. I'm Stefan Zweifel. I call myself a full stack developer and have been working with Laravel since 2014, I think, and have used Filament since V2, I think. And you can check out my website, my Blue Sky account, but honestly, I haven't been active on any of that. Recently, social media is kind of dead right now for me, so yeah, that's it. Let's get started with Filament. What is Filament? On their website, they describe Filament, the project, as a collection of beautiful full-stack components. More concretely, I would name it a collection of Livewire components to build interfaces in Laravel quite quickly. The most powerful standalone components are the form builder and the table builder. I will go into detail into those components in a second. But before I start, I would like to mention that when you use Filament or any of its components, you basically never have to write any HTML, CSS or JavaScript yourself. You use a fluent PHP syntax to build up these components. And Filament takes care of rendering the respective components or pages. So the form builder supports more than 25 input components, like a simple text input and a searchable select field, for example, but also more complex fields like file upload with a live preview of what you've just uploaded, if you've uploaded an image, for example. Or there are markdown and rich text editor input fields, and also very complex ones like repeaters, which is actually what you see in the screenshot here. These are like, you can create a schema, for example, like a text field and a numbers field, for example, and then you can add multiple instances of this set of fields. And thanks to available layout components, you can also create very simple forms, one-column forms, or more complex ones like this wizard, for example, with different steps. And you can also add tabs and different layouts in these pages, for example. So it's very powerful. And also the form builder handles every step in the submission of a form for you. So validation, data manipulation, and how you save the data to the database. Next, the table builder. It can be used to create, as you might have guessed, tables or data tables, to be exact. It supports searching, filtering, sorting out of the box. You can also group certain rows by certain columns, like a year, for example, or an author in a list of blog posts. And you can even create batch actions to take actions on multiple rows at once, or disable certain columns and make this all available to your users, so your users can select certain columns of what they want to see. Here's an example video with fake data from an application I've worked on at work, which is actually something I've mentioned before in a talk here. It's a pure Filament application used for marketing purposes, and it basically shows all the features available in Filament. Let's loop this as well. In this data table, users can select up to 49 columns, which are available to display various types of data. On the left-hand side, these buttons, these are called actions. users can activate or pause ad campaigns, for example, or expand and collapse everything and group by account name, for example, and add different values here, revenue numbers or profit numbers or conversion numbers. And the really cool thing is that I didn't have to write any HTML, CSS or JavaScript for this. It's all Filament. It looks pretty nice. It works great for our use case, and it's still in use today and makes our marketing teams very happy that they have access to a relatively powerful UI, and they don't have to rely on, for example, on Facebook or Meta or the Google Ads UI to do the work. So it's like a very focused UI. Okay. Next, there are many more low-level components that are available in Filament. Buttons, badges, loading indicators, modals, tabs, and much, much more. But where Filament really shines is with their panels. And panels are the primary use case why you would even start using Filament probably in your project. In a previous version of Filament, like in V2, you would have called Filament an admin panel, like something you give your back office folks so they can see a list of all users and update the credentials or reset passwords, for example. But since version 3, Filament has become much more powerful, as you can create multiple panels in one application and customize much, much more. For example, this is also a panel, a screenshot of the demo application of Filament. And basically in a panel you see all your models and resources in the navigation. And when you click on a resource, you see the table, like here, a list of all customers. And as shown before, you can search and sort this table to your liking. Then you can also create or update existing models or records. In this case, it's an author, and the panel has been configured so it's shown as a model window and not as a specific page, which is also available if you need it. And since version 3, you can create, as I said, multiple panels. So you could create a classic admin panel that is available to your employees, where they can see statistical data or see all orders in your application, for example. But you can also create a separate panel called maybe app, which is available to your users or your customers. And you can share certain logic between the Filament panels, which makes building applications quite easy. And thanks to the info list components, you can also create quite nice looking view pages or detail pages for your models. So it's pretty nice. So maybe I'll give you a quick demo so we see a live example. Where's my mouse? Here it is. So, so this is the demo application available at demo.filamentphp.com. Yeah, it's basically the same as I shown before in the screenshots. So this is all, whoops. This is all Filament. It's all quite dynamic, so you can, this is a dashboard filter and you can change this and the data is updated automatically, which is pretty nice. As I mentioned, you have these tables and sorry. And you have these filters here above, so you can filter between the different status of the orders, for example. You have different forms, for example. This is, I think, the model one. Yes. So you can create a new category here. Or you can even create another and jump back into the model window. And yes, this is author example, and this is the next demo application. So it's all quite nice, and you basically don't have to write any HTML, don't have to write any views. You can just basically lay out your application in PHP, and Filament takes care of the rest. where's my mouse? So a couple of pain points though. Filament can be quite powerful, a powerful tool in your tool belt. But before I go any further, I would like to highlight and show you my side project. I would like to highlight one pain point in the current version, and that's rendering tables. Rendering tables can become quite slow. The bigger your table gets, the slower it is to render. As you might have seen in the video before, when I enabled certain columns, it took like 2 seconds to re-render the table. So that's quite a big pain point, but in the next version, in V4, coming later this year someday, this has been solved. They internally changed how components are rendered. So instead of blade components, they're now just basic PHP includes, basically. And they switched from using Tailwind CSS classes to traditional CSS classes and just put all the styling on a single CSS class selector. This also reduces the HTML size quite a lot, I think. So this should all, or they mention this in podcast episodes and in blog posts, that they see a significant speed improvement in rendering tables. So basically the one pain point is gone in V4, hopefully, and everything is going to be awesome. So with the basics out of the way, I would like to show you a side project I've been working on for the past 2.5 years. And the problem is basically, back when Twitter was a thing, I saw a lot of interesting articles and videos which I would like to read or watch later because I didn't have the time when scrolling through the timeline. And I've tried so many read it later apps that exist, but I was just not satisfied with the feature set or the performance. So there is Instapaper, which has a great Kindle integration. I really like to read my articles offline on my Kindle when I'm on the train, for example. But the mobile app was horrible. The web app has becoming quite slow. But I fixed this kind of a bit in the last few months and years. They've now more funding, I think, and the project is a bit more active. But they also increased the pricing, which is quite competitive now, like $100, I think, per year, so quite a lot. Then there's Pocket. They don't have a Kindle integration for offline reading, but it was also looking stale. Features aren't coming, and the whole UI was quite slow. And then they were bought up by Mozilla, and I don't think they know anything what they're doing right now. So they're doing so many different projects, and I think they're going in the wrong direction, but that's another topic. Then there's Readwise Reader. Looks great, is well designed. I've even signed up for a trial and all, but I just felt overwhelmed by the UI. It feels like a productivity tool, and that's coming from someone who is also an Obsidian user, this note-taking app, which is also its own rabbit hole, and so this was just a bit too much. And then there's Matter, my current Read It Later app, which I pay for. I paid once for it, and it just keeps working. They have a great listen feature. You can click a button and it plays the article for you. It reads it for you, so you can do cooking or doing your cleaning your flat. They also have a Kindle integration, which is kind of meh, but they're also VC funded, and in the recent months they shifted their focus a bit and to content discovery, which is not something I'm looking forward to. And their web app is quite buggy. They have a mobile app, which is okay, but the web app is always lagging behind with features. And I think just recently all my archived articles are now back in my queue. So it's a big mess, and yeah. And just a couple of days ago, they launched a new AI Copilot Assistant reader, which I don't need, but they apparently worked on it. So for a long time, I had the thought in my head, why not just write your own Read It Later app? It can't be that hard. So in the summer of 2023, I've created a new Laravel app, and started solving the hardest problem first, how to get the main content of any given URL. And here I have to go back to Mozilla. They've open sourced their readability library. It's the underlying feature that powers the reader mode in Firefox. And it works pretty okay. So I've used that to extract the content from most URLs. And building up from there over the next few weeks and months, I've added more features, like sending entries to my Kindle for distraction-free offline reading, converting articles to audio so I can listen to them, or like a deeper integration, for example, for YouTube. So when I save a YouTube video, I see a thumbnail or see the description. Or a public API, so I can easily add new articles from the go. And for the last 6 months or so, this has become my primary consumption service, which is pretty great. But all cool and dandy, but I'm here to tell you about Filament. And the entire app is now just basically Filament, because I'm doing this in my free time. I don't have time to design something or write much code, like all the controllers and routes and everything. No, I don't want that. I just want an app that works. So except the landing page, the authentication screens, and the profile UI, those are still chat stream, and the landing page itself is broken. But the rest is an Filament app panel, and I'm also have an admin panel where I can do some administration stuff. So let me give you a quick demo. And let me rephrase this by saying, this is an app I'm using. It's not for public, so stuff looks broken sometimes, or form fields are just there. So just a reminder. So let's close all of that. So that's basically it. That's a fresh account. As you can see, I've enabled the sidebar. Here on the left side, I've created custom navigation groups, so it fits more of the feature sets. Like I have a queue, videos, favorites, a library, an archive, collections, and yeah, that's basically it. So let me also add some content. So for example, a YouTube video, or some coding articles. Oh, this is slow. So if I go to my queue now, I should see some content. So for example, here's the YouTube video from the last meetup, for example. It extracted the thumbnail and some descriptions. And if I click into it, I see the video. And the fun thing is, it's faster for me to save the video to my service than to let YouTube render the entire interface. In Firefox, it seems, I don't know what they're doing, but it takes like 5 seconds to load everything. And this is just faster for me, and I can watch some content. And yeah, that's the YouTube video. And let's see some text content. So this extracted, oh no, it's broken. Let me switch to light mode. Cover your eyes. Oh, that's not good. Well, demo. What I would like to show you is, I don't have some content here. Basically, I've also integrated like code highlighting. So if an article has a code block in it, I have some custom rules in there to render this as with syntax highlighting, which are automatically matched. Yes. Or for example, I can use some advanced features like synthesizing the texts. Ooh. Well,
I'll call it out.
No problem. I don't think there are any credentials in there. But what I would like to show you is maybe some, which goes into the next section then. As I mentioned, I have a feature to convert text to audio, and I can also create like podcasts here. Can I hit it? Which is basically then a way for me to save content and push it to this podcast, and my podcatcher of choice then automatically downloads the content. And if I'm in the gym, for example, I can just hit play and it reads an article for me, which I've saved, which is pretty nice. And this feature for text to audio uses the Google Text to Speech API or the Amazon Poly API or the Azure API. And in the later section, I show you how this all works together with the manager and strategy pattern. And yeah, anything else I wanted to say? So yeah, basically everything you see here is Filament. And I would like to show you another example. Let me switch to production here and show you an example of something else. Not that. Oh. I should have prepared this better, but yeah, let's use that. So this is in production. Whoops. A different article about pseudotypes. I have no idea about what is this. Ah, where's my mouse? And let's synthesize this. So in the background, a job is now running, making an API request to Google, I think. And in a few seconds, hopefully, it's done. I can show you a nice little feature. Oh, demo gods, bear with me. Oh no, now there's a play button. And now a little audio player appears. That's the only custom thing I've built for this thing. And
using pseudotypes, published on January 20th, 2025, version française in 2011.
It's a very AI voice. But the cool thing is, if I mute this now and let it play, I can just go to, let's say, the next article. And the thing, the audio player remains in there and plays. So, well, yeah. But if you go back, everything breaks. But that's, I think, a Livewire problem, or not my problem. So yeah. That stuff is the only thing I've made custom in this app, and it works pretty great. And it even keeps track of the timing. So how many minutes I've listened, and it even would work with the speeds, because I'm a 1.5 or 2x person, so it's important to me. So even that would work. But as you can see, it's a bit buggy right now, so I have to check that. Yeah. And what I didn't mention before were these actions. So Filament has this concept of actions, and that's these buttons here. And there's also this more button here with even more features. And the cool thing is that I can reuse everything in here between this view, like this table view, and this more detailed view. So for example, the tags feature is a bit more complex because it loads a model window. I can input content in here and save this. And I can basically reuse the same logic between between the detail view and the table view or the form view. So that's pretty nice. So I think I've told you everything about the demo. Yes. I am skipping some stuff because it's very boring. Yes. 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 I could go on and on about and talk about Filament and more, but the docs are pretty good. They've just redid this and redesigned them all. So for example, there's a feature called render hooks, which made all of these custom features possible. For example, I've made a custom footer or this little audio player there. That's all with render hooks. So you can basically hook into any part of the filament panel or the filament table or forms and just add your own stuff there. So there's basically always an escape hatch for you to make things work for you. So this was a lot of filament talks. So I think I got over the gist of what Filament can do and how you could maybe build apps quite quickly with it. So next I would like to talk about something completely different. Perfect timing. So in the second part, a much shorter part probably, I would like to talk about the manager and strategy pattern. And you might now think that I'm talking about business, but I have to disappoint you, it's still about code. If you haven't heard of the manager and strategy pattern before, you most certainly used it before if you use Laravel, because all the driver-based features in Laravel, database cache, storage session queue, mail, and everything else, all use manager and strategy under the hood. It allows us to easily switch between the implementations without rewriting our app code. So for example, for the database driver, you just write Eloquent, and you don't have to care about, oh, is it using MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, or something else. The framework itself ships with a manager class you can use in your app and to create different implementations yourself. So a manager class is basically just extending Illuminate support manager, and then you have to implement a get default driver method. That's the first method here. And in this example, the value is derived from my configuration file, like it works in most Laravel systems. So for example, there are mail configs and file system configs. I thought maybe let's do the same. So in this case, this is the content parser. So how I extract the content from a URL. And I've just created different implementations. There's the readability one. There's also one called Postlight, which uses a different library under the hood. And the actual implementation is then again in a different class, but this is basically just the bridge between the different implementations. And there's also a return time hint of content parser. That's basically the strategy then, the interface. So the interface is then just normalizing all the methods between each driver. So because I don't want to add like if conditions everywhere that checks like, oh, this is the readability driver, the code is different there. And that's not what we want. We just want to write our implementation once and easily switch between the drivers. So in my case, the strategy looks like this. There's a parse method, the parse HTML method. Naming is quite hard sometimes, so that's what I did. And each method also returns or has defined that it needs to return a parsed article object. This is a data object. And the rest of the application then just uses that object and gets the title and the content and like the author or the publish date out of that object. So to tie this all together beautifully, I use the Laravel container. I bind the content parser interface to the container and tell Laravel, hey, if anyone requests that an instance of the content parser interface, just return the default driver implementation of the content parser manager. So in my case, this would be the one defined in the configuration. So if I set up my instance to use Postlight, for example, all if I use content parser anywhere, the postlight driver is given to me from the Laravel container. This is where it felt pure magic, honestly, because now I can just type in my content parser interface in my code, in my constructor, for example. This is an action, not to confuse with Filament action. It's just a nice pattern to bundle business logic and simple PHP classes. So this action is responsible to getting the content from a URL and save it to the database. And the second argument here is just my strategy here, and I get my driver implementation out. I think this is pretty nice, and it even gets better when we talk about testing. For example, in this case, or with my text-to-speech implementation, especially the text-to-speech implementation uses AI. And I don't want to run AI in my test suite because this makes everything slow. So in these cases, I write an in-memory driver or a null driver, which just returns an immediate response, which makes my test suite quite fast. I still have some tests that actually test the implementation. Obviously, it gets the correct content from a real URL, but in most cases, I rely then on the fake drivers. Yes, so I hope this short detour into managers and strategies was useful to you. Next time you need to switch implementations, sorry, let's drink something. So next time you need to switch implementations dynamically in your applications, maybe think about using drivers and managers and strategies. So if you implement maybe third-party APIs or in my case, content extractions or something else, I'm sure you have some place in your application or somewhere in your business where this could be applicable to you. So maybe use the manager class available in Laravel, for example. It's already there. Don't reinvent the wheel. And whether you're building something new or refactoring old code, take a moment and check if you can maybe simplify some logic here. I think this manager class or this system is quite great. So to give this all an end, as a conclusion, I think Filament is pretty great. You can easily create apps that solve business problems in your business and have a great looking UI that doesn't look dated, and you don't have to really care about design or how the whole front-end stack works. Filament takes care of this. The manager strategy pattern is really a great way to switch between implementations. So maybe if you're doing some AI stuff, which is maybe a bit of a stretch, but maybe you can write a manager strategy pattern here to switch between ChatGPT or maybe Google Gemini, for example. So maybe that's something that would work for you. And you can just do things. For example, I really wasn't happy with all these read it later apps and just thought, hey, let's do it. Let's write my own, and it works. So you can just do things. So that's a great motto. So thank you for listening. Thanks for enduring my voice. Here are my links, and if you have any questions, let me know. Mario.
Are you thinking of making the app available for others? I think even with the bugs, probably people would prefer it because you also had a good reason to make your own because you were not satisfied with what was available, and I'm assuming this will be the case for others as well.
I think 2 other people already have access to it, so it's multi-tenancy possible to use multiple users there. So yeah, I have plans to make it maybe public, and so if any of you want to have access, reach out to me. I can send you an invite. So yes, I also have some thoughts about maybe making it open source, so others could learn how to write maybe something like this. So it's definitely on my mind, but it's not currently my priority right now.
The open source was going to be my second question. Because then people can also help fix things
Yes.
if you don't want to.
Yes.
Weren't you ever in trouble, like getting stuck with Filament, and thought, oh, I should have rather
Good
implemented
question.
that component by myself?
Yes, sometimes the filament components are a bit restrictive, or you feel a bit like I don't find a solution. But that was basically a bit of my own choice, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to see how far can I come with just being in filament land and don't do anything custom. So let me think. I think the content detail screen is pretty complex sometimes. Even it's just let me mirror my screen here. So this little view here is just rendering the content, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, for example, it's a bit over-engineered, this entire app. So if I get the content, I get HTML, I then convert it to an abstract syntax tree, and then convert it to Markdown to add my own little things here. For example, these heading links, for example, or to make this code blocks work. So that was quite a bit of a challenge. And for example, if I would now save an article with lots of code highlights, it breaks the app because it needs too much memory and to render the code blocks, and yeah.
So overall, that was more complex to implement
Yes.
in Filament than custom.
Well,
Yeah.
not necessarily, I think.
Probably because I did it without Filament recently and it wasn't that bad.
Nah, it's not that bad. It's just like 3-4 custom lines of code you have to write, but it works. But it's really a good question, because that was really one of the points when I started this project. Like, you just want the features. You don't care really about, or I don't really care about how it looks, and yeah, that is perfect. Like at my day job, I'm often like the perfectionist and would like to have everything perfect. But in this case, I really wanted, like, I just want to get something out of the door quickly and use it quickly. And sometimes Filament is a bit in the way, but it works for now.
So this might actually be a more appropriate question for Dan than you, and he's not in the room. But going back to you're saying that the Filament team have reworked the way that the components are being rendered. Or did they just rip the blade components out and just replace them with pure HTML or pure PHP files, or have they come up with a better way of rendering blade components?
Good question. Maybe Dan can answer. If I remember correctly, they've introduced something in Livewire itself to partially render something, I think, if I remember correctly. And they tried to propose it to Caleb, but it was not accepted. And so they just keep it in Filament. But the blade components, I think they really just switched to PHP includes.
Okay,
And
because I know
don't use blade render anymore.
somebody had done somebody has
benchmark
created
or-
another like spin on blade components.
Yes, yeah.
So you're familiar with that project. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if like there are multiple parallel paths to try to solve the same problem, or if Dan was just like, nope, I'm just going to make this pure PHP and
I
skip
don't know
all
the
that.
details. So what I heard, they just switched to PHP includes, and that fixed the
okay.
problem.
All right. Well,
But it's a good question. Maybe
I'll
they
catch
could.
up with him in London,
Yeah.
and we'll find out.
That's also one example, quickly, where the blade component, where the code blocks now work. And I think I even introduced light and dark mode. No, I didn't. I think that's still on the to-do list. Jonas?
I think this is more a question for your work project, maybe. I was always wondering how to approach reusability. For example, when you have kind of the same form in different places, like when you have a resource and it has a form, and this resource is also a relation in some other model. How do they call them? Relation managers or something? And then, like, do you have a best practice to reuse forms or tables? Do you do it on a model or? I was wondering about that.
We have the same problem, and it's actually something the Filament team also knows. And in V4 they introduce a new system for this. I think what's called schema, I think. So you just define your schema once per model, and then you can reuse your forms, your tables, and everything else. We did this like if you create a Filament resource, for example, in this case, or we have also an add campaigns, for example, here. So an add campaign resource is created on that class. You create your forms, your tables, and your info lists, and that's basically our main configuration. And in our relationship managers, we extend or reuse these tables. We basically just say then, oh, use add campaign resource, colon table, and go from there. And sometimes we override certain methods or definitions, for example, the actions or filters, or disable certain columns. Yeah, but it's sometimes quite nerve-wracking. Like, oh, where do I put this? And yeah,
I think I've just put a static method in my model.
Yeah.
It holds the form or something.
or create a class like filament structure or something like this. And
Thanks.